Hi, this is Bill Taylor with KODA 93.5 FM, and we have a special interview to do here today. At this time, I'm going to introduce to Chief Vince Tacan of the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation, and just to welcome you to the studio here. And a couple of questions we want to ask, but also there's a couple of things you want to update the community on as well. So, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you and whatever you want to go with the update. And I know we got some questions to answer, but I'll turn it over to you so start us off.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's great to be here. Since being elected, we got off to kind of a rough start. We've had 4 months there where our hands were tied. We had, as everybody knows, we had all our information deleted, banned computers by non-members. So it's been difficult trying to retrieve some of that information, and I think to date we only have about 80% of the information that we have to work from. So that's been a challenge, and during that time we've still had to make payroll and work with directors, etc., get organized, which was a challenge when you don't have any of that information that's needed. So in actual fact, we've probably only been working for a year with all the information that we needed. So that's been a challenge. The other challenge, I think, is that there has been no structure in the organization. We have been lacking policies, we've been lacking roles and responsibilities for some of the staff that we have in place. So we have over 300 staff. And we also looked at our HR files, and there's virtually nothing in any of our HR files, so we had to start from scratch with that. I know there's been some questions on evaluations and raises and so forth, but we couldn't accommodate any of those because we don't have the information. There's nothing on our files for anything. So we basically had to navigate the last little while from scratch and set some things up. It's kind of ironic that we've had legal counsel for the last 5 years and we don't have no policies, we have nothing to work with. So we had to reconstruct a lot of the governance structures that need to be in place. We had to bring in policy. We had to move pretty quick. I know the community feels that there's a lot of changes that happened, and it's hard to keep track, but you know, when you only have a 2-year term and 4 months of that term is wiped out, you know, you have to cover a lot of ground to make some changes. So now we're at a place, I think, where we're starting to get our footing. We're starting to figure out what it is that we actually campaigned and ran on, getting our priorities in focus and starting to focus on those things. So for myself, it was the court case, the claim, which sat idle for 5 years. Nothing has been done on that, and it looks like Sioux Valley fell off the radar. No one seems to remember that Sioux Valley Dakota Nation has a self-government agreement. So it's been a task trying to educate federal and provincial government, the bureaucracy, that we have an agreement, and we need to start exercising some of the jurisdictions that are contained within. And to date, you know, we're looking at the CFS law as the first priority. I've always said that children are the priority. We need to get control of what's going on with our CFS. Currently, our CFS rests with Southern Authority. I know it has a Dakota sounding name, DTS, but it's not actually controlled by us, it's controlled by Southern Authority. They have the mandate. So once we pass the CFS law from Sioux Valley here, then the mandate will be ours, and then we run our CFS program based on prevention as opposed to apprehension. So we're still going to have to do some work in the apprehension model. We don't want to, but I know it's a transition, moving agency in that direction. So there's going to be a lot of work. I'm not going to do all of it. I'm just initiating it. trying to get the things in place so that we can effectively take control over the future of our children in the community. So we have our own board in place there. We're also implemented a board with our education. Education is a ticket out of poverty, as people have heard me say before. And if we can't deliver a quality education for our students, then how are they going to sustain themselves as adults and have meaningful employment? So that's a priority as well. The other thing I campaigned on was doing something about the drug issue in the community. We've taken a policy approach to that, and it's hit and miss. It's something that's deeply rooted in our community. It's going to be hard to fix that in a year and a half when this has been allowed to go on for the last 5 years. So it's going to take a long time, and things can change. We may go back to the way things were, where there's been some difficulties with drugs in the community. And unfortunately, they seem to have a lot of influence, and so I'm not a very popular guy in that regard, but you know, I'm not looking at making any friends here. I'm trying to keep the community safe, trying to get our youth focused on education, bettering their chances to succeed. They can't succeed if we don't do anything about the issue of drugs in the community. So that's a priority, and in that regard, we're working now on putting up a temporary healing recovery center at the old residential school site. So that's in the works right now. We have some good partners that are wanting to assist us now with that. The current systems that are in place are not able to meet the needs of Sioux Valley. They're barely meeting the needs of folks outside our community. So we have to do something to help our people to get the treatment and the recovery strategies that they need, so that they're not going down the wrong path. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is break these cycles, right? The education, the lack of education, that cycle, the poverty cycle, housing is something that we need to look at. These are all things that are interconnected, and we need to look at them and work on all those things at the same time.
And so when you were talking earlier about the rough start and having the information that had gone missing and trying to recover from all that, and it took a lot of time to get into that, did that actually affect also things on the political front, like working with the feds, working with the federal government, the provincial government? Did that kind of delay and slow things down because you were busy taking care of this other situation over here with the information?
Well, lucky for us, when we explained the situation to some of our funding sources, they couldn't believe that happened, and they understood the situation we were in. And because of the need for reporting, there was a lot of outstanding reports. So that actually did buy us some time to get reports in. Not all the reports are done, but the majority of them are. So we're not being penalized at this point. There's no clawbacks or any penalties associated with not having the reports completed. But yeah, we managed to deal with that. It's not my first rodeo. I've been here before.
Yeah.
My history seems to be that I come in and I fix things and then I'm booted out again. So that's kind of a back and forth. That's kind of my history, but you know, it gets tiring. Mm-hmm. It's seems to me that we get to a point where it looks like we're going to jump into some new projects and finally get moving forward as a government, as a community, and then elections happen and then we go right back to where we were.
Yeah.
So that explains why it seems like things stand still, right? So it's unfortunate, but you know, that's a democracy. We live in a democracy. People vote. At the same time, people have to take responsibility for how they vote. And my experience seems to be that you know, there's some folks that you know, vote based out of spite or family connections or whatever. They're not looking at long-term view of what's going to be happening 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah. So, there was a few questions here I want to ask. And this has kind of been a long-going issue and what have you in regards to the traditional headdresses. And we have a lot of, as I stated, a Dakota style headdress that belongs predominantly. We've been known to have it, but a lot of other tribes seem to have adopted that style. And there's even stories about how the Blackfoot and the Dakotas, they claim that they were given that from the Dakota through a long story of helping one another as a gift. What are your viewpoints on that in regards to giving away? Like there's obviously a certain amount of significance behind it and protocol to follow. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my initial thought on the traditional headdress that's being used by other First Nations in Manitoba, obviously, as I've stated in other places and other media things, I am quick to say that I'm not a traditional person. I don't try not to be too involved in those sort of things. I respect it. I have a healthy respect for the traditions, but my role, as I see it, is governance. I only have 2 years to work on things, so my main focus is the priorities that we campaign on. So the headdress, as I understand it, is for deeds and a person's contribution to his nation, to his tribe, to his people, is what I understand it to be. And today I look around and it's pretty contemporary. It seems like anybody could wear a headdress, and I often think back to some of the things that I witnessed as a kid even at POWs. For example, eagle whistles are another thing. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to stand in front of the community and explain how you got your whistle. And the same thing, I think, people need to explain how they arrived at receiving their headdress. I know simply being elected as chief doesn't automatically mean that you should be wearing a headdress. As I said, my personal feeling, I could be wrong, is that these things are earned. I have one. One was given to me by the self-government elders way back when. I never had one, I never wore one, I never went out looking for one, and I was surprised by the elders. They gave me one at a meeting in Saskatoon. It was given to me, a song was sung by some relatives of mine, and it was presented to me. Although I appreciate it and I understand why they gave it to me, it was post self-government agreement. But at the same time, because of what I've seen in the last little while, I kind of had misgivings about wearing it out in public, because there's so much negative information out there and people getting called down their histories and whatever else, and people doubting. So I'm kind of reluctant to wear that. And as I said, my role is governance. I see myself as being the spokesperson on governance type issues, working towards things that are going to yield tangible results. I don't think me going out and taking away a headdress from a chief from another community or our national leaders is going to benefit someone that's struggling with addictions or needs a house or whatever. So I don't have the luxury of time to address that. And I'm really grateful that the elders are speaking about this and bringing this up at every occasion. But for me, that's not my role. I'm not. I don't consider myself an elder. And to me, again, going back to my thoughts on this, If someone has a headdress, I think, well, what did this person do? Was he a good brother? Was he a good with his uncle? Was he good with his family, his community? What did he do to deserve this? Was he a leader in the community? What did he do when he was a leader? Did they have some successes? I don't know. It's just questions that go through my head when I see someone wearing one. But it's not my call. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I don't give people headdresses. I don't sell them headdresses. So it's not my responsibility to go around collecting all these things, even though to me, I know that in some cases it's not right that some of these headdresses are being worn. And again, that kind of works to lessen the importance of the headdress and what it means. So for that reason, I very seldom wear mine. I don't like to wear it. It makes me uncomfortable. For some reason, our communities are a small majority are pretty mean-spirited, and I just like to avoid that altogether.
Okay, for you, if you don't mind, I'll take you back to July 15th, 2024, up at Whitecap, Dakota way out there. And the federal government, the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs, came and offered an apology to the Dakota people for the many years of not even acknowledging us being in this country, but also referring to us as refugees and, saying that we're Americans, we're not Canadian. And, so it was one of those days, all the bands showed up, Dakota people bands were there. And, but I guess my question to you would be, well, since that apology, what's been happening since the apology was issued?
Well, to look at the history of the apology, we commenced a court action way back when we were talking about our claim, and part of the remedy that we were seeking was an apology for the labeling that happened to our Dakota people, not just in Manitoba but in Saskatchewan. So the labeling, as we know, had negative effects. And in our case, it resulted in us being underfunded. It resulted from us being excluded from certain things. It resulted in us being treated differently, not only by government, by other tribes who hold the same view. So we were the only Dakota nation that had actually requested an apology through a court proceeding. And when I came back as chief, I found out that it was still on the table, and that I was told by other chiefs that the apology could have happened a year before I came back. But there was all kinds of disagreement in what the apology should say and how it should be worded and certain historical facts. So that created a stalling of the apology, and originally the apology was supposed to happen in Parliament. So by the time we got around to having the apology delivered, it was done in Whitecap, and it was done through the Minister of Indian Affairs at the time. It was initially supposed to be done by the Prime Minister. So when I came in, 3 months in, I was contacted by the other Dakota communities on thoughts with regards to the apology. I said, I don't care where it is, let's get it done. And so that's the reason why it happened in Whitecap. The other thing that favored that location was that we were all given an opportunity to meet with the minister following the apology. So we thought that was important, and getting the apology was important because it's basically an admission of guilt, right? That the label was real, that it did have impacts. And apology is needed before you commence any court action, so the apology is in hand. But since that time, unfortunately, it's been not really implemented fully. We haven't yet seen the benefits of the apology. In fact, there's still some communities that believe we're still refugees, and sadly, there's still some government departments that consider us refugees, even though there was an apology made by the Minister of Indian Affairs on behalf of Canada to the Dakota people. So there's still issues with the apology, and but nonetheless, we have the apology, and we're moving forward with the rest of our things that we asked for at the court case, and one of that is settlement of long-standing issues. In this case, land disparity and ag benefits is something that we're working on. So, to me, we had the ceremony for the apology. Chiefs were all there. We accepted it. The apology is done. I don't know what more we need to do to get the word out there. It's on our website. I think it was even live streamed back to our community members here. We had our high school students that were sitting there watching it. So the apology happened, and things don't change overnight. And as I said, there's still some people out there, and sadly some of our First Nations political organizations, communities, they still believe we're refugees. And in fact, there's a court case right now with the Métis, and they're still perpetuating that myth that Dakotas are refugees. So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. Like I said, that's unfortunate because we had recently at a sports event at my daughter's school. They had made reference to Treaty 1, Treaty 2, and whatever, and there was no mention of the Dakota still to this date. So it's obviously something that we got to keep fighting. So and reminding people, and that we are here. We've always been here, and so that's keep getting that message out there. I was want to ask you a little bit about the school lunch program at the school, or is there elementary school and the high schools? Anything on that?
Well, I have a council that I work with, and we each have portfolios. I oversee the council on that. I assist them where needed. In my days as a school board member, I know that one of the factors that prevent kids from learning is going to school hungry. Mm-hmm. So I've always raised that anytime it comes up that we ought to have a good school lunch program. Having said that, those kind of been hit and miss. So we've had different versions of lunch programs at the school. Well, we don't have something that's permanent, written in policy, and so that's something that needs to be addressed. So we, in the last little while, put together a school board, and this is one of the things that's going to be on their agenda on how can we have a good lunch program for our students, so that at least that's one thing that we can take off the risk factors so that kids can perform well at the school. So one of the things that we're also working on is food sovereignty, and the last council had started a program that was designed to assist with that, and that's the grocer hydroponic operation that's supposed to be eventually producing healthy food, which would find its way into the school. So there's been some issues with that. We finally did some work to get that up and running, and I think this past week we're starting to see some of the produce being harvested as a result of our efforts. So other communities are using grocer right now, and they're having success bringing it into the school to complement whatever is there right now. Another thing we're looking at with the school in mind is the Bison Project. We've started with small numbers, and this is the second time that I've been involved in trying to establish bison in the community. We previously had a herd was pretty close to 100 head, which were sold. And it's unfortunate that politics plays a role in these projects that the community starts. So they were all sold, and we established another herd. We're getting some good numbers now, but it's not something that's gonna generate revenues to get the band out of a deficit. The intent there is to eventually start producing locally grown, healthy meat products for not only the school, but the care home. Originally, the bison program was started to benefit the school. It was not started to save the band from insolvency or debt or anything like that. It was designed to get to the point where we would start harvesting our own meat products and using the cultural components and doing the teachings that need to happen to some of the students to build identity. So there's a curriculum that needs to be developed in there. So the buffalo, on a business basis, we're not there yet. But on a spiritual, on a community lunch program type initiative, we're pretty close. We're probably looking at processing some bison this fall, and that meat will be distributed to the care home and to the school, as I said. And anything that's left will probably be sold through our local gas station here, restaurant.
Okay. I had a question in regards to the community safety law. Now, if I remember that the community had voted on this particular law, and where are we at with it? Are we using it? Are we not using it? If so, why isn't it being put in use?
Well, the community safety law is much needed. It should have been fully operational by now, had they devoted a lot of time and effort to it. We didn't even know that this law had passed. Shortly before I came on, I understand there was a community vote on this, and I think there was like 140 some odd people voting on this law, which is not a lot when you think about our total population. But nevertheless, it was passed, and so we took it from there, and we had a look at the law. We looked at the implementation of the law, and there's a few things that kind of make it troublesome to implement, and that is the composition of the safety board. The way it's set up, it calls for some elders, a male and female, to be part of the board, and for our part, we posted that a number of weeks ago, and we got no response. So currently at this date, we can't banish anyone because banishment, especially for community members, we need to undertake due process for some of the people that will be looking at banishment. They have to have an opportunity to respond to any referrals regarding banishment. So the next step for us is to look at whether or not we can appoint ourselves as the board to take those duties on. It's not the ideal, but at the same time, as a chief and council, we're not afraid to make decisions. We need to move this legislation forward, and at some point we need to go back to putting a call out for people that are interested in sitting on this board. One of the things the law doesn't contemplate is that this is very problematic for anyone that's on the board. They're risking their personal safety. Anyone who sits on this board and agrees to banish someone is going to be confronted. They're going to be intimidated. All these negative things are going to happen. And I'm not sure that that's something we want to put on the shoulders of our elders.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, our elders are there to give us direction on history, language, culture. That's where I see our elders assisting us, especially in terms of our claim. Our elders could be beneficial in that regard, but I don't see them sitting there as the board that's going to be banishing folks. And in some cases, some of our elders, through intimidation, are being quiet because of family members that are involved in illegal drug activity. So it's not reasonable to think that they would now come and sit on a board to banish their own relatives.
Another question that I had in regards to the two schools. I remember a while back that the federal government, that Mark Miller announced that there was two schools to be built back in the community in 2023. Where is that at right now? Or what's the status on that?
Well, the question is actually wrong in that Mark Miller didn't announce a new school. He came to announce our water treatment plant. That's all he came to announce.
Okay.
So that was the commitment.
Yeah.
So when our political folks at the time stood beside him and said that, oh yeah, we're getting a school, he was kind of surprised at that and was not expecting that. And so it created the specter of the government of Canada announcing that they were going to be funding our over $90 million school.
Yeah.
So that needs to be cleared up. So there was no commitment on the part of the government of Canada to fund schools.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
What they did come out for was the water treatment plant, which we have operational now. So after we looked at this, and I also thought that we were going to be getting a school, we found out that there was a very rough plan to use existing funding to leverage the finances to build a school, which probably would have meant that we wouldn't be able to build any houses, do any economic development or nothing until that debt was retired. So that would have tied our hands. So right now, one of the things we're doing is we're looking at other options, and this could be a modular building for high schools. Other communities have built temporary high schools, modular buildings that would go up in less than 6 months, and the cost of that would be roughly 45 million, somewhere in there. So our current facilities are not in good shape, as everybody knows. It's really unfortunate because it puts our children and our teaching staff at risk. The buildings are not healthy, they're not safe. So we're making the case, we're quietly working on trying to secure a commitment to build at least a high school for now. And again, this goes back to our role as governance. Our role is to work on these things, and that's what we're doing.
So again, another question I have for you, I just to get some clarification in regards to the current status of the ranch, the property that Sioux Valley had purchased, and just wondering what the is it still is it in use? The benefits, just kind of an update as to what's been happening with that property since it's been purchased.
Well, I think there's information out there that I had purchased the property, which is not true. I came in, the land, the property was already purchased before I got here. I think there was a plan to convert it to a healing type center and do different activities there. The problem with the plan was it was very preliminary, and it was put together with the view that Sioux Valley owns the land, we can do whatever we want. So the problem with that is it's land owned by Sioux Valley, but it's not reserve land. The land we're sitting on here in Sioux Valley is reserve land, and so we have some flexibility. There's no red tape for us to do set up a business or do whatever it is that we need to do here. But on that land, it's fee simple title. So there's all kinds of municipal, federal restrictions on doing some of those activities out there. You gotta get a permit. You can't even build a garage or alter anything off the reserve without getting a permit or seeking permission from the municipality or zoning commissions.
Okay.
So that's gotta be cleared up. And it's the same thing with other land that we own. So we're in the process of converting the land, the parcels that we own, so that we can start implementing our Sioux Valley Dakota Nation law on those lands. Right now they're held in fee simple, which means they're still subject to taxes and regulations. So right now the ranch is not being used for any addictions type activities. It's been used on a limited basis because of liability. We're looking at letting Dakota Towai Services work with the ranch to deliver equine therapy and those kind of things in the next little while. The ranch, in my opinion, is not in great shape. It's got older buildings there, so they need to be renovated and fixed and updated. It's not a state-of-the-art facility, so it needs a lot of work. And we also have to address the liability, we also have to address the zoning and that sort of thing, and that's why we've already undertaken to put the wheels in motion to convert it to reserve status. So this is one of the things that was purchased, and there was a lot of hype, and there was some posters, there was some displays, not only of the ranch, but of the school, the new school that was supposed to be built. I believe we paid close to $2 million for those plans, and we can't find any of them in our offices. We don't even have any pictures of the designs or nothing. So there again, the day after elections, we don't have nothing. And it took a while to tease out some of this information from the people involved. And with respect to the school, I asked a couple of questions from the people who were working on the design of the facility. I said, so what is our space requirements for the students that we have now? What do we have in existing space? And the answer was, good question, I'll have to find out. So my next question was, well, what are the future needs of the students based on population? What kind of space requirements do we have, and what is our needs? So again, I get the same answer. Good question, we'll have to find that out. So here we are, trying to build a $90 million school, and we don't even know what our space requirements are, based on the number of kids that are coming up. So that was concerning. So it needs a little bit of work, and that's one of the problems overall across the nation here. We don't do enough data mining, so we don't know what our needs are, which puts me at a disadvantage because I can't tell the government how many kids are coming up in the system, what the needs are, and how to get ready. We can't put a plan together if we don't have the information. So data mining is huge. We got to start doing more of that.
And I think that a lot of people need to understand too that are not involved to this level with the political stuff. In regards to government, you know, it's all about numbers and details. The number of people you got, then how it's going to cost, what are the details behind it. So, you know, so I guess it would be a safe bet to say to everybody, like, to whenever there's the census, where they do a census or, questionnaires for housing or whatever, just to be honest straight up so that we have the numbers that we would need to better service the community.
Yeah, we're needing these numbers because if I go to Ottawa and I say we have 300 houses and half of them aren't very good and we need more houses, and they ask me numbers, I wouldn't be able to answer them because I don't know who's couch surfing. I couldn't tell you how many families are living under one roof. I know there's overcrowding, but I don't have any data to back it up. So I'm really just going to be making general comments.
Yeah.
And that doesn't get you anywhere when you're dealing with funders. They need to see numbers, they need to do cost estimates and all this stuff. So data mining is really important. And so that's something that we have to get into the habit of. And we need to do a better job of that.
Okay, I got a question for you. In regards to the Dakota Grand Council, there was a meeting back in February 27th in Winnipeg. We can speak on that or share some information on that.
So this is an initiative that was again commenced prior to me coming on as chief again. This is something that's been around quite a while. There's been all kinds of efforts to do different things under the Dakota Nations of Canada banner. And for some reason it just can't seem to get going. Probably part of the difficulties is the change in leadership. Our communities are going through constant change in terms of leadership, so it's pretty hard to get traction. And I think one of the things that precipitated this was that we now need to get more coordinated as we start talking about claims, start talking about language, history, and culture. And so the idea for the Grand Council was formulated way back when, and to date, the only thing that we have is an MOU. And the reason for that is each community is now finding their way in terms of what it is they want to focus on. And so each community, recently Bertil had an election, so there's a new chief there. So she has to get oriented in terms of what the needs are in her community before she can dedicate some time to the Grand Council. And one of the things that works against establishing a Grand Council is different political organizations, right? Some communities are involved in Southern Chiefs, some communities are in AMC, some communities are in tribal councils. So if we were to establish a Grand Council, those entities would be losing money. So then it becomes an issue of keeping those Dakota bands in those various organizations. So there's folks out there that are adverse in interest and don't want to see the Dakota Grand Council formed. So in addition to that, we also have folks from within our communities that are working to tear this apart, right? We have people that say, oh, you guys should work together. How come you're not working together? You guys should get together and work together. So then we get together and try to work together, and then the next thing is, why are you guys working together? You need our permission to work together. So it's pretty challenging to be faced with those kind of things, and at the front of it, you know, I can see why these things never get off the ground. And so you need to have a focused and business-like approach to these things. You need to have minutes, you need to have motions, you need to have agendas. If you don't have any of those things, again, all you're doing is having a general discussion. or pardon my French, a bitch and complain session.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not organized, then you're really not accomplishing anything. And when you're in my shoes and you have a 2-year term, you don't have a lot of time to focus on these kind of things if you're not yielding any results. So you have all these communities that need to put some time in and be sincere. If they're not sincere about forming this organization, then chances are it's not going to get anywhere. So my incentive to get on and work on this Grand Council was I wanted to focus on claims. Because each of our communities is struggling right now. We don't have the resources, we're left behind. Other communities are accessing cows and plows and all kinds of benefits payments out there. The Dakota bands are the only ones who are not part of that groups that are benefiting from those. So we need to have an organized approach. We need to have a strategy going forward. But at this point, I think we're still working alone, because some communities are not viewing claims as a priority right now. They're busy putting out fires, they're busy dealing with different things. We're the only community that has a self-government agreement, and the rest of the communities are under the Indian Act, so they have schedules, timelines. Right now, the other communities that we're sitting with are under pressure to get their audits in. So that's a big deal for them because it could result in their funding being cut. So the priority for them is getting those things underway, getting those things completed before they can focus their attention back on the Dakota Grand Council. So there's a lot of things there. And again, once it gets going, again, my thoughts are the Grand Council needs to focus on things that are going to make life better for the grassroots people. They need to work on these initiatives, these big initiatives that are national in scope, not just on reserve. They need to start engaging with big business and develop partnerships. For example, the Métis, they have impact benefits agreements with Hydro and other agreements where they're receiving funding, and they have already taken the steps to do traditional land use mapping, and so now they have a recognized area, and we don't, and yet we've been here forever. And we don't even have a recognized territory for the Dakota people. That's how far behind we are. So that takes a collective approach, and that's where again the elders come in. So the elders need to get focused and focus on those kind of things. They don't need to be coming to me and telling me to go and take headdresses off National Chief or whoever.
Yeah.
They need to focus on getting those things done so we can see some benefits.
Yeah. One of the things I want to talk to you about in regards to some comments that were made on made by you on Facebook. This was back on March 2nd, 2025. Was this your personal page or just in general? Were you commenting on something? Just some clarification in regards to that, the comments.
Well, my Facebook page is my Facebook page. I try to put information on there and update the friends that I have on my page, and just to let people know what's going on. It's not sanctioned by the community. It's not something that my council participates in. They have their own Facebook page, and in this day and age, everyone has a Facebook page.
Yep.
And I don't pretend to go around policing their Facebook page. If I see something I don't like on somebody's page, I delete it or I don't look at it, right? I can take it or leave it. And I guess that's what I'm saying right now, is if you don't like my page, don't look at it. It's my page, and I'll decide who I accept as a friend and who I give this information to. And like I said, it's basically to update folks We're not just sitting around doing nothing. We're working on some very real challenges. And I know Facebook is Facebook. It's not always positive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I have to be very careful, and I think I'm going to start limiting what I post. And I guess that's why this is a good format to deliver some of the information that needs to get out. You know, I look at band meetings. I know that I've been requested to have a band meeting, but I've been chief 7 times, and I've been to numerous band meetings, and I've never seen any positive results as a result of a band meeting. And you know, today's day and age, we have our webpage, which is maintained by our staff here. We have open houses. We have different things out there that people can access. And this is something that the young people are already doing. Young people, to be fair, have an advantage over someone like myself. I'm not always the best when it comes to technology. I still get my family or friends to help me navigate my way through some of the things that I need to access to. So, but if the young people can take the time to learn how to use an iPad and go on those web pages and get information, well, I think the elders should too. You know, it doesn't, I've heard elders criticize the youth and say, look, learn your language, you're not a Dakota. Learn your culture, you're not a Dakota. And you know, they really berate some of these youth, which I think is really unfair. And when you look at it in a bigger perspective, that's actually continuing the cycle, the intergenerational effects. You know, instead of coming down on the young people for not knowing their language, they need to assume a teaching role. They need to teach the young people the language, the history, the culture. It's not a wonder and a surprise to me now why some young people do not want to engage with the elders. So that's very sad. It's very unfortunate that that's the case. But that's what I see and that's what I hear. And you know, if they expect the young people to learn the language, the culture, then the young people should expect the elders to open up a laptop or an iPad and go on the webpage and find the information. Why do they need to have an unproductive band meeting? That's old school.
And I think that's where I'm lucky too, because my older daughter said, "You're not gonna get left behind." So I got my cell phone. I got, you know, they showed me everything that they could for a laptop, and you know, as they've always helped me with the technology, and a lot of the nephews and nieces help out as well. So you know, it is they do make them a lot easier. Not like the earlier days, like the earlier ones, but they're a little bit easier to operate and work now. So, you know, I could see that both ways. But I could also see that part you were talking about with the, you know, you should know this, you should know that. Or they school, you know, you kind of get ridiculed for not knowing something, and it kind of, that's what's chasing a lot of our younger people away by not showing any interest, by getting berated by that. And that was one of the biggest things that one comment that I did hear was, we don't care what happened 30 years ago. We weren't around. And we don't care what happened 40 years ago, 50 years ago. We weren't around. That's got nothing to do with us. And what's that got to do with today? So it's a thinking kind of a thing, I guess you could say. And one of the comments that like that said that, and just it's got nothing to do with. So interesting turn of events. Like, where do we find the middle ground there to try and
well, that's where there needs to be a lot of community healing that needs to happen. We need to change our mindsets and get away from the negative. We need to focus on what's my role, what can I do. And you know, growing up, I learned the language from my parents. They spoke it in the home, they talked Dakota to me, and that's how I learned it. I didn't learn it at the school. And so today it's a little more challenging. Dakota is not spoken in the home, so the kids aren't picking it up. But again, we have teachers that are trained to teach the language. They're trained as teachers, they can develop curriculum. There's language apps out there now, there's all kinds of things. If someone wants to learn, they can learn it. With our language, there's the male and female way of speaking. And so there's a challenge there on whoever is going to be delivering a language program. But I'm not a teacher, so I leave that to the teachers to sort out. But you know, the elders again, I'm not saying that all the elders are negative. There are some elders that sit back, you know, that don't come forward and offer advice. You know, our culture seems to be that, you know, it's based on respect. I think I've been given tobacco maybe 1 or 2 times to speak, and I spoke. But other than that, I try not to force my opinions on anyone, especially if I'm not given tobacco. So
Yeah.
if no one gives me tobacco, I ain't gonna speak.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're an elder that comes up to me in a confrontational way and wants to argue with me, well, I didn't give you tobacco to come argue with me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
come to me in a respectful way. Treat me like a person. After all, I'm the chief, but I'm still a person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you come at me in a respectful way, I'll do the same thing. I'll try to answer your questions if I'm not putting out a fire.
Yeah. That's a good point. Very good point. Finally, I was talking about in regards to the Constitution, the protocols. Like I said, we have our own Constitution here in Sioux Valley. And so, in regards to the protocols, what are some of the things that that our community needs to know?
Well, the Constitution was developed for Sioux Valley, by Sioux Valley. I know I wasn't the chief when that came about. I was working outside the community. I didn't get a chance to participate in some of the discussions, and from what I understand, and just looking back at the history, at some times, at some of these meetings, even the lawyer was kicked out of the room and changes made to the Constitution. But at the end of the day, we still have a Constitution that was developed. Not a perfect document. Nothing's perfect. No law is perfect. That's why there's always amendments and challenges to anything, right? But the Constitution, for the most part, is different in that it was voted on by our community. It wasn't something that was generated by the department. It wasn't something that was brought in by another government or another bureaucracy. This was something created by Sioux Valley, and it's basically a Sioux Valley led initiative. It's a Sioux Valley law. So the Constitution, when it came about, again, I didn't participate in it, but I know from governance that everything has to have a starting point. Everything has to flow from a Constitution. And actually, I did some work as a consultant on governance. So what I look for in every community is a Constitution. If you don't have a Constitution, then you're basically not self-governing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, with the way the Indian Act rolled out and the dependency that was created under the Indian Act, it really took away all our traditional governance practices, and so we're not in the habit of developing our own laws. And a lot of the things that we did were dictated to us and were policies developed somewhere outside our communities and forced upon us.
Yeah.
So that's basically what the Indian Act is. So for us, having the Constitution, I think, is huge. I know other tribes have looked at our Constitution and they said, that's great that you guys have a Constitution that talks about the Dakota language, it talks about Dakota culture, all these things that are in there. And you know, we can't implement everything overnight. Everything's a work in progress. You know, we've lived under the Indian Act for hundreds of years, and we haven't been that far along living under our new Constitution, which is probably a little over 10 years. And so that's not a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just learning how to develop our own laws that work for us. And CFS is the first law that we're working on. It's going to be the first test to see if we're ready to take on that jurisdiction. If we're successful in that, we'll take on other jurisdictions as we move along, such as health, education, economic development, those kind of things that are going to benefit us at some point in the future. So the Constitution is the main document that works hand in hand with everything else underneath it. And by underneath it, I'm talking about the policies, the election law that we have. Any election coming up needs to have the Constitution involved, because there's pieces in the Constitution that speak to election, and then there's the election law that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Constitution and the election law are at odds, then the Constitution trumps the election law, where there's an inconsistency.
Okay.
Because the Constitution is the main document that we have to follow, right? And everything else flows from the Constitution. So I'm only bringing up the election law because that's the only one that we have that references the Constitution, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we develop a CFS law,
the
Constitution will apply to that. As we develop our laws around health, the Constitution will apply. So everything has to be in alignment with the Constitution. The Constitution is the main document.
So whatever changes you make in one, you'll have to make with the Constitution as well, so that it coincides with each other.
Yeah, the laws have
One,
to.
yeah.
The laws have to be harmonized with the Constitution.
Yeah.
They have to work with the Constitution and not be at odds with the Constitution.
Yeah.
So that was huge because the Constitution was passed at the same time as our governance arrangements and our fiscal arrangements agreement. So when we voted for self-government, we passed the Constitution, the governance arrangement, and the fiscal arrangements. So those are the three documents right now that are in play, and we have to work with those, and we have to figure that out so that we can benefit going forward from those three documents. And so that's something that was put in place by the councils of the day, subsequent councils, myself. I was involved in that. But at the end of the day, everyone voted on it and everyone passed it. And so we need to follow what we pass. Otherwise, we might as well be an Indian act band if we're not going to follow our own rules.
Okay, no, that was good, and that explains a lot. And I think that's where a lot of when you have problems with misinformation and hearsay, or as we say, yapido, and it gets out of hand. So a lot of times clarification is the key element to getting rid of a lot of those rumors and speculation and whatnot. So I want to thank you for taking time to explain a lot of this today. Any closing remarks you'd like to make before we wrap things up here? Anything message you want to get across to the community to?
I usually like to remind people that we need to stay hopeful. We need to have belief that things are going to improve. It doesn't happen overnight. A lot of these things, there's a lot of footwork and research and chasing down information that needs to happen. We're working on some things now. Our development up on the highway is going to have our business engine that's going to fuel the economy, our local economy going forward. We're working on that, and we're working on housing projects in town, which we're hoping to develop here in the next little while. We're still chasing down information and having a plan put together with regards to the high school. I'm still working on the claim. We're still working on the drug issue. We're still trying to work on things that are going to move our community forward. And one of the big things lately is that we're starting to bring boards in to work on the much needed things that and the goals that we have as a community. We have the DTS board there, which is comprised of our community members, which are working towards the CFS law. We now have the education board that is working towards developing a strategy to get our kids on a level playing field so that they can have meaningful employment down the road. Right now we're not hitting all the marks. We're going to be looking at testing on the students. This is not to embarrass or hurt anyone. This is just to find out where we're at with our students so we can put plans in place so that they can achieve success. We need to know where our weak spots are so we can focus our attention on those. Eventually we're going to have a health board, I think. That's something that we're working on next. These are big areas of responsibility, and there's no way chief and a handful of councillors are going to look at all these things. And we also have, you know, it's funny how, you know, the dog issue keeps coming up, but we actually have a dog bylaw that we have in place. We posted for a dog catcher, nobody's applying. So this is the other thing, you know, we can't do the stuff that we need to do if people aren't applying or they're not taking courses or classes that work towards filling some of these gaps that we have. And that's where, you know, we're forced to hire people from outside our community. Mm-hmm. But our hope is, in keeping with the Constitution, to hire local folks and eventually develop our capacity.
Well, like I said, those are some of the questions I had for you today, and I appreciate you stopping by today to do this. Like I said, come back anytime, and like I said, you know, clarification is good, and I think that's one of the biggest factors that the misinformation. We touched on that throughout all of this. A lot of misinformation, just clarification. Make sure, you know, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and just eliminating a lot of that, which is always a good thing to do. So appreciate you stopping by today to answer some of the questions and give the community an update that's much needed, and a lot of clarification on a lot of different things that were coming up. So I appreciate you stopping by. So again, this is pretty much going to sum up what this interview here, and more or less it was just to be able to sit down, chat, talk, and clarify a few things in the air that have been floating around out there. And like I said, get rid of that gap, you know, which is a very dangerous thing to say, because it's, you know, it's true, but at the same time, you know, those of you that are difficult to understand that what I'm talking about in regards to that. But again, I want to say thank you to Chief Vince Tacan for being here today. My name is Bill Taylor. I'm with KODA 93.5 FM and also part of the communications team, and want to say thank you for taking time to watch the video, and stay tuned for more in the future.